The New York State Department of Transportation presents the DOT POD.
And welcome into the DOT POD. I'm Josh Heller.
And I'm Anya Cardos.
And we are delighted to have you joining us. Well, we are on location today in Hauppauge, that is on Long Island. And today we're talking with two incredible DOT bridge employees who keep communities in Long Island connected and on the move.
Mitch Rippe maintains and repairs Bascule bridges on Long Island, and Paul Baines operates them, and they ensure that both boats and vehicles can traverse these drawbridges safely and efficiently. They work tirelessly to keep traffic flowing and communities connected here, often facing the challenges of unpredictable weather and tight schedules. Welcome,
Thanks,
Mitch
guys.
and Paul. Thanks for being with us today.
I guess the first question we'll ask, and it's a simple question, I suppose, but there's a lot of people like myself prior to working here that didn't know. What's a Bascule bridge?
So it's a movable bridge. They raise in the center. It's got two sides of it, two different leaves, two different pivot points. They open together and they close together to reform the road.
So I think would drawbridge be a more the
drawbridge is the more common term.
Gotcha. Bascule sounds fancier. I like it.
It's French.
There's 5 of these bridges on Long Island that are operated and maintained by NYSDOT, the New York State Department of Transportation. Paul, talk a little bit about how long you've been doing this and how you got involved in this kind of role.
Next month it'll be 10 years, and I started in highway maintenance, and I heard about the bridge opportunity. It sounded very interesting.
And what were you doing prior to working with DOT?
I drove a truck, home deliveries. I'm also a volunteer paramedic.
Oh, fantastic.
Excellent.
So you serve New York and your community in
I try.
a lot of different ways.
And you're from this area?
From Levittown now.
Gotcha.
I moved to Babylon recently.
And Mitch, what about your history with DOT?
So I've been here coming on 13 years now. I was actually a chef. I went to culinary school.
Really?
And it's a very hard field to make a living in. Long hours, long weeks. Eventually, I just started applying places back in 2012 or so, and I just threw an application out there to the Department of Transportation. Got a letter back saying that there was a hiring freeze. 6 months later, I got a phone call saying, I see you applied for highway maintenance. You interested in bridge maintenance? Sure. You know, I didn't have too much experience, just minor maintenance experience on household things. Mm-hmm. After 3 years, took the supervisor test, really took an interest in it. Became bridge repair supervisor 1 after 3 years. Worked my way up from there, took the bridge repair supervisor test 2. Got moved over from land bridges to the drawbridges, and kind of just found a home here since.
And Paul, for you, as you know, driving, I mean, you're on the roads prior to going to DOT. So as going from someone who is driving on the roads to someone who is maintaining those roads, I suppose you had a good inside knowledge into what was necessary. And I'm sure you were driving thinking, you know what, they should fix this. And then you were the man to do it.
Well, truck drivers don't always appreciate the DOT. Let's put it that way.
Fair. But I'm sure you do.
Yes.
So these are drawbridges. A lot of people have never seen how bridges like these operate or the work that goes into them to lift them and lower them. What is your job like? Kind of take us behind the veil here and tell us what is a day in the life of Paul Baines like?
It's very solitary. You don't really see anybody. You speak to all the boats on the radio, and you can hear all the chatter all going in the New York Harbor and stuff like that. And but it's basically very, very busy in the morning. A lot of boats come through, and in the summertime, it's extremely busy. And only boats over 30 feet need an opening. So there's a lot of small boats around. But all the bigger boats need an opening, like sailboats and stuff like that.
Now, is there a schedule to when it's open or closed, or is it more just based off need, they call into you and you lift it up?
Well, commercial operators, commercial boats rather, go on demand, and the public is, during the peak traffic hours, they try to keep it to a schedule of depending on what bridge it is, it's usually twice an hour.
How do boat operators, if they need to get in touch with you, how do they do that? I mean, I read that some bridges have like phones on either side, or do they call you on their cell phone? Do they call you by radio? How does that happen?
Most of it's by radio.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the boats have marine channels that we operate. We monitor channel 13, and they just call us up on the radio. And there's so much chatter on the radio that you have to really listen to who's calling you, instead of there's numerous other bridges, and then there's boats out on the harbor, and so you really have to listen to it.
This may depend on which bridge it is, but give or take, so you get a call, it needs to be opened. How long a process is that? What's that process like for you? And ultimately, how long does it take for a boat to call in, for you to get started, and for the bridge to be raised?
The whole thing could probably be done in about 5 minutes.
That's pretty quick. That's faster than I thought.
There's 4 stages to it. You go to red lights, stop all the traffic, make sure all the traffic is stopped. You put the gates down to make sure the traffic doesn't start up again. And then the bridges, when they come together, have pins that lock the 2 pieces together, so when the truck drives over it, it doesn't bounce around. So you got to pull those pins and unlock it, and then you can operate the bridge and go up.
So, and do you manually do that with the pins?
No, that's all electric.
Gotcha.
You just sit in the tower and you operate through switches.
Mm-hmm. Gotcha.
And then, of course, the drivers are waiting. They watch the...
Very patiently, too.
Always. I'm sure.
I'm sure no one's honking or anything like that, trying to get to the beach. And so how long have you been doing this?
10 years.
10 years. And tell me what that's like for you, because you're at one bridge, right? And then you have to go to another bridge during the same shift. Like, how many bridges are you operating?
It depends on the time of day. Sometimes you're alone operating 3 of the bridges, and sometimes you're with a partner that operates the other 2.
So say you're alone, 3 bridges, you're on one, and someone's like, "Oh, I need you to raise the bridge." Like, under control, got it. And then you get another call like, "Oh, I need to raise that bridge," and it's like, "I will get to you." But take us through what happens. I mean, I'm assuming you have to finish the one bridge, get in a car, and hit the road.
You try to accommodate the people, but it's sometimes very difficult.
Luckily enough, they're all within 5 to 10 minutes of each other, the 3 that they operate on their own. But there are those times where impatience comes in. And
I believe that.
And people also don't want to follow the schedule that they're supposed to be following.
In New York?
Never. What? And the second he's opening, let's say, the Loop Parkway Drawbridge, and he gets a call for the Wantor Drawbridge, he finishes that operation. He gets in his state vehicle. He drives on his way. I'm getting a phone call from Hauppauge. How come nobody's opening the bridge? He's on his way.
He's
you
on
know
his
what
way.
I mean? Yeah.
So you're literally getting, you're exiting the bridge, getting into your vehicle, and you're driving to the next bridge that you're going to be lifting.
Yes.
And how long can that take sometimes?
It's usually 5 minutes away. It's very close.
That's going to be it. And then you hop back, and then you're on that bridge. You lift it up, and then whatever bridge needs to be opened, you go to that one, or you go back.
Most of the work is at the Loop Bridge. That's the busiest bridge, and people are usually pretty patient. There's some stragglers that aren't, but most people are very patient.
Mitch, can you explain the maintaining of these bridges?
I mean, we're talking old structures.
Old
structures over salt water too, which is got to be its own set of problems.
So when you look at our newest bridge, which would be the Wantor Drawbridge, all right, you can look at it. It was built between 90s and early 2000s, and everything put together. When you look at it, you can look at that bridge and already say that bridge is old, right? Because we're sitting on salt water. Everything's just painted steel, and it needs constant maintenance. And then when you look at the Loop and Meadowbrook Bridge, you're going to say, well, the Wantor Bridge is just as old as those bridges. It's not.
No.
So...
yeah, those go back to what, the 30s?
1934.
Wow.
Yeah. So we're sitting on 90 years right now.
They don't make them like they used to.
No. So as the years have gone on, maintenance on those bridges have become harder and harder. You have depleting steel and the mechanical side of it depleting away due to the salt water. I mean, not only are we over salt water all the time, but we're also dumping salt on the roadways and on these bridges in the wintertime. And it sits there and it seeps into all the cracks. So parts over time start to get replaced, whether it be state contracts or us going in there as things start to fail. Wires start to rot away, and then you got to run new wires, which is what we're going through on the Meadowbrook Parkway right now. As these things happen, technology changes. So maintenance also changes with that. The main thing is that we keep all the mechanical parts greased as much as we can at all times to not let the rust in, keep everything nice and lubricated. And like I said, as time goes on, all of the parts that are being replaced are being, quote unquote, upgraded with new technology. So now you have a drawbridge from 1934 with a brand new computer system in it from 2020. And you have motors that have been rehabbed and taken apart and sent out to be rebuilt and put back, that they don't make parts for them anymore. And these bridges constantly, they break down. You know, not everything's always compatible. They do the best they can to make them all compatible. But the biggest thing with maintenance on all these things is trying to stop the deterioration. And that's probably the hardest part of this job.
One of our first episode we ever did, we had a bridge engineer on with us, and Harry, and he basically talked about joints and how, you know, water gets in there, and that there's joints that leak and joints that will leak, and that's obviously a huge problem. But those are for bridges that don't move, essentially. When bridges are moving like that, I mean, you forget about, you know, joints. I mean, you have, you know, gaping spaces just so the bridge can move and freely operate, which has to have its own set of worms.
Yes. So on top of the movable part of these bridges also have the fixed part of them leading up to the movable spans, right? So it's also a regular bridge on top of a movable bridge. So you have all that aspect to it that you still have to pay attention to on top of this. Like I said, even worse is the salt water. It's in the air. You're not up in Albany, over a stream, let's say. It's just, it eats it even eats our trucks, you know, in this atmosphere down here. Like, our trucks go really quick. Because it's not only sitting in winter, it's all summer long.
I think maybe it's that there's people who live in different parts of the state who maybe don't understand the difficulties and challenges that happen in landscapes that are nothing like the ones they live in.
Yeah, well, not only that, but it's also the people who live in this landscape don't understand it.
So that's a good point that you bring up. I think a lot of probably what you do day to day is, you know, maintenance, but it's trying to stay ahead of whatever, but whatever happens. And so say that the bridge does get stuck up. What are you doing in order to, you know, to mediate that? What's the process like? Or and Paul, you know, you put the bridge up and then you hit the button to have it go down, and it don't go down. After a slight moment of panic, what's the next move? What's the next move from both of you?
There are a bunch of breakers I can check to make sure everything's operating, but beyond that, I have to call for help from the maintenance crew.
Yeah, so basically, if a bridge gets stuck or malfunctions, say it doesn't open, and now the gates are stuck down, you can't lift the gates. And his first thing that he does is there's an override on the board. And you could try those overrides to try to operate the next step to either open it back up to traffic or get the bridge down or open for the boat. Sometimes those don't work either. We're dealing with an electrical problem. Then there's breakers. We got to reset some of the breakers. Then there's fuses inside there. Maybe one of the fuses popped. Beyond that, it's a matter of, first things first, let's open the road back up to traffic, right? We had an issue just the other day. Middle of the night, I get a phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning. Mitch, I just finished an opening and I can't get the gates up. 3 o'clock in the morning. I have Hauppauge Inform calling me. I have state police calling me. I have fire departments calling me.
Everybody's got your number, Mitch.
I have Coast Guard calling me. You know,
Popular guy.
It's the way it is. You know, what are you supposed to do in that moment? I had to wake up 4 people, 3 o'clock in the morning, and 4 of us rush out there, go underneath the bridge in the middle of the night, start figuring out what's going on, because we couldn't get the gates up either, not able to do what we're able to do electronically. Then we have to go into manual mode, which is like a hand crank on the gate, on the pins, whatever it is, make sure everything's Loctite, get it open for the traffic, right? The bridge opening was at 3 or 3:30 in the morning. We didn't have the road open until 5:30 in the morning. It's not always a simple, easy process.
You bring up an interesting point, because a lot of us work in shifts, you know, so we work from, 9 to 5, but this is not that kind of a job. I'm beginning to learn through our conversation. Paul, your shift, what is that like? And if there is a bridge opening at 3 a.m., are these bridges staffed like 24 hours a day? They have to be, right?
Yes. My shift is from 5 a.m. to 1 p.m.
Mm-hmm.
It's probably the busiest shift we have. All the boats go out in the morning and they come back in the afternoon. They're scattered, but everybody usually goes out quick in the morning. And the traffic doesn't start to build up till like 5 o'clock. But yeah, there's an operator there all the time. And
yeah, I mean, even as Mitch was saying, 3 a.m., if that bridge needs to go up.
So I have about 7 or 8 drawbridge operators, and they work 24/7, 365, all holidays and everything like that. If it's Christmas, somebody's there.
Right. 2
people are actually there during the day. There is no off time for federal regulations for operating a drawbridge in a busy area.
So this is obviously a job that requires not only skill and patience and, just working pretty hard, but it also means a mindset where you got to be open to, okay, things may not work out the way that they should, right?
That's pretty much life in itself, yes. But
it's a good philosophy.
Well, if there's anyone out there looking to do your kind of your role, what kind of advice would you give them?
It's not bad. It gets a little stressful when things go wrong, but it's pretty a low stress job, and the people are great. You talk to them on the radio, and you hear all the experiences they're having out in the water. And someone just a month ago, someone saw a whale by the Meadowbrook Bridge, and you hear whale sightings out in the ocean all the time. And the seals come this time of year, and the boats go out and do seal watching. It's actually really nice.
You must have the most amazing view.
Oh yes, I can see the city on a clear night, unbelievable.
And you get the sunrise too. If you're
the sunrise, the sunset, you're up high too, so you can see right over. I can see all the airplanes landing at both airports, and it's pretty cool.
Some stunning boats, I would imagine too.
Oh yeah.
What are some of those vessels? Are those are cargo ships as well, or are they mostly sailboats?
A lot of them fishing boats, party boats. They go out. Hardcore fishermen go out on party boats, and that's probably most of them.
Most of them, because these are the barrier islands here that would have smaller vessels.
Yeah, there's only the 2 inlets there. There's the Fire Island Inlet and the
Jones
Beach Inlet. Mm-hmm. That's the ones we cover, and it's a quite a distance if you take the inland way, instead of going out in the ocean. But sometimes the ocean is really rough, so you have to do the inland.
Now, I think you mentioned this, but this time of year versus, say, July and August has to be a very different experience for you. I mean, you're doing the same things, but you're probably just doing them a lot more. So it has to. I mean, obviously there are still boats that need and go through, like you said, 365. But when you're starting to get to those nicer weather, people heading out to the beaches, it has to be a pretty busy time.
Yeah, it definitely in the summer it definitely picks up. But it's fun. You're running around a lot, but it keeps you busy.
It passes the time.
Yeah, it definitely does.
New York State is heavily invested in not only our roadways, but also our bridges. Ahead of the Memorial Day weekend this past summer, Governor Kathy Hochul announced that a major construction project that had been going on was completed in rehabilitating two of the historic bridges here on Long Island, the Loop Parkway and Meadowbrook State Parkway bridges. What kind of investment are you seeing right now, and how is that really helping you guys do your jobs? It's got to be a great feeling.
Yes. So this started a couple of years ago. I got a call for the Meadowbrook Parkway drawbridge that there was a hole in the left lane right on the roadway. And these are metal gratings that you're driving over.
That's a problem, by the way. So that's not great.
Yeah.
So the two leaves that open and close, they're consisted of metal grating. You drop something there, you drop your wallet, it's going down into the water. So these used to consist of just painted steel. As you know, cars driving on painted steel, the paint starts to wear off. Again, salty air. Dropping salt on the bridge and everything like that. This grating started to rot away over time. So it started with one little piece. So we did temporary repair, and then a week later, another piece pops up. A week later, another piece pops up. So now we're doing major repairs as basically, as a maintenance crew, and it's becoming too much that we can't keep up with it. We don't have the force to keep up with it.
Right.
So a lot of us came together. They looked at the Meadowbrook and Loop Parkway drawbridges and those gratings, looked at the age and the last time that they were done, and had decided on doing some upgrades on them finally. So this was, again, just an age and an age kind of thing. Something needed to be done. The repairs that they finished on both bridges were galvanized steel grating that's not going to rot away, or at least not rot away nearly as fast, and it's going to keep its strength for much longer than the previous solution was. So yeah, that, better than getting a phone call every Sunday at noon when I'm getting a haircut with my son and having to go out and get the welding truck and get this together and get that together and the saws and cut out these pieces of steel and put something in place temporarily and look for a solution. The bridges are safer today because of that. Right. They are now solid new decking on the leaves.
Yeah, better to drive on, safer, much more efficient, I would imagine. For you too, Paul.
I was watching them do the process, and they were taking out some really rotted pieces, not just rusted, but rotted pieces that I felt much better after they installed that the bridges are much safer.
Yeah. Whenever we have time, we like to ask our guests a couple of questions when we wrap everything up, and they're fun ones, promise. Mitch and Paul, what would be your favorite DOT road trip, and what's your favorite tune? Or your tunes that you like to listen to, or genre of music when you're out on those road trips. And this being an episode focused on the bridges, I don't know, like maybe you can talk about which bridge. I don't know. Paul.
Probably the Loop is my favorite. It's busy. It's you're there, you're talking to the boats, and everybody's really friendly, and it's nice. And Led Zeppelin.
Sweet.
Good choice.
One of Josh's favorite bands.
Can't go wrong there.
Mitch, what about you?
Let's see. Favorite bridge. Probably would have to be the Captree Drawbridge. It interests me the most. There's two bridges, north and south on that roadway, Robert Moses Causeway, called the Captree Drawbridge. Used to be just one, now it's two for northbound and southbound. And the controls inside of that bridge are actually still original from the 40s.
Oh, cool.
So you still have the turnable handle knobs, and you can control the speed at which the bridge goes up and down.
Oh, that's got to be cool.
I was looking at a book actually that was in my office from previous foreman. It was a General Electric catalog from 1942.
That is so funny.
And I needed a part once. And
Go to the manual from the 1940s.
referenced the number. And the guy said, "Sir, those are not our numbers. They don't make the parts anymore. They don't even have those numbers anymore." You know, so going to that bridge was, you know, working on that bridge and maintaining that bridge and seeing how different it is than the upgrades that were done on the other bridges, because that's the least busiest bridge we have. Definitely very, very cool.
Gives you a window into the past.
Yeah. And I like my late 90s, early 2000s alternative rock.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's...
Get down with that too.
You and Josh, you guys could really hang with Josh on a road trip for sure.
No big deal. Well, I again, thank you both for taking the time and coming down and sit with us. We try to shed light on things that I think a lot of people, both in and out of the agency, maybe aren't aware of. Like you said, there are people in this area who travel those bridges who maybe aren't aware of all that. So just trying to shed a little light on that and the great work that you guys do to operate these bridges, to maintain these bridges, and to keep things moving in New York. So thank you both so much for that,
guys.
and for coming in and sitting down and chatting. Really appreciate it.
A lot of fun.
Absolutely.
And Mitch, congratulations, early congratulations to you for your upcoming upcoming arrival.
Yeah, yes, thank you very much.
Expecting in about a month from now?
Just about a month on my birthday.
Oh, fantastic.
So,
even better.
Yes,
What a great birthday gift.
Oh, it's going to be good.
Our best to you and your
Thank
family and your
Thank
new
you.
addition soon to arrive.
Thank you.
Well, that's just about going to do it for us here from the DOTPOD. Thanks, everyone, for tuning in. Anya, good one here today.
Oh, that was a lot of fun. I always like getting a window and a view into roles and jobs that, you don't know what they're like, but you always wonder when you drive on a bridge or you see those lift bridges or the drawbridges going up and down. You're always curious, like, who is that person there? What is that job like? And today we found out.
And I do want to send a quick thank you also to Stephen Canzaneri, who helped set up this episode as well here on Long Island.
Thank you, Stephen.
So thanks to all of you for tuning in here. We will be back next time, right back here on the DOT POD.